We are finally in our new digs, but it's the same old best of Board Game Geek, baby. Let's hit it. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and that's right, we're back with the best of Board Game Geek. We're going to talk about some news, some Murph Picks, talk about the hottest game of the month. You know what? Let's go ahead and get in the news. So as always, as we're heading into convention season, Board Game Geek does a great job of kind of compiling information about upcoming games that are for demo, for sale, and everything like that, and they go into the da-da-da preview. And so what I'm gonna talk about is the Gen Con preview. Gen Con is around the corner. And there's always so many game releases. So if you're, curious about like what games are coming up, if I'm going to the con, what are going to be some things that I could possibly pick up for myself or demo? The preview is a great place to do that. Publishers populate this this kind of directory with all of their games. You can rate these things and click on them and thumb them up to kind of you remind yourself which games you're interested in. It's a really wonderful tool for figuring out kind of what's to come ahead, especially if you're going to those conventions. So since Nick and I travel a lot to these conventions, we make use of it every time. The Gen Con preview is really fun. It's just fun to get excited about what's going to be upcoming, speculate wildly about which games you think are going to be, the hot thing of the convention. So make sure you don't miss that preview. It's always right there at the top of the BGG homepage. So a bit of Board Game Geek news is a Geek Store update. We usually do a store update because there's always new cool stuff in the store. And the main thing that they're pushing right now is the Hawaiian shirts. I really, really like these geeky Hawaiian shirts. They were all over BGG Spring and they were selling them at BGG Spring as well. But now they are on the Geek Game Store. Super hyped. I don't know. It's just nerdy on so many different levels. I just really, really enjoy it. And we also have a whole bunch of, not Geek Up bits specifically, but upgraded bits from MeepleSource. And speaking of MeepleSource is where you can buy BGG Store stuff, Geek Up bits and things like that at Gen Con if you're going to be at Gen Con. And BGG is going to be running the Hot Games Room at Gen Con, which is at the Hyatt that's across the street. So if you want to see the hottest games at Gen Con and you're there, the BGG Hot Games Room is going to be the place to do that. So make sure to look at the store update because there's a whole bunch of goodies up in there. All right, that's a bit of Board Game Geek news. We're gonna head over there to our little sitting set, which we'll see in a second, for the hotness. Alrighty, so it's time to talk about the hottest games of the month. Mike, will Space Station Phoenix be on there? No, but I like that game a lot. So let's go ahead and talk about the ones that are on the hotness.
We just played this one.
We did. We played this last night.
Yeah, actually, we did play last night.
By happenstance. Number 10 is a Gest of Robin Hood.
That is true, yes.
This is...
You've been Mike, I'll talk about this a little bit more later. You've been delving a bit into coin games and war games.
I've been getting into it. Played Cuba Libre at BGG Spring twice.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And I was intrigued by a Gest of Robin Hood for a couple reasons. One, I want to try another coin game and see kind of... how one compares to the other. I like that it's a two-player game.
Yeah,
and
it's not very long either.
Not very long.
It's like an hour and a half or so.
Kind of like as Cuba Libre is also a good intro to this kind of game. And then the story of Robin Hood is one that we grew up with. Robin Hood Men in Tights is a definitive Robin Hood tale.
Exactly.
But this one takes that kind of coin game action selection system and kind of puts it into one player playing Robin Hood, one as the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah, you're putting as a Sheriff of Nottingham, you're putting out your henchmen and stuff and trying to make different towns submissive to Nottingham and stuff. Whereas Robin Hood's in the woods and trying to make people revolt and trying to rob carriages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, we just got a chance to play it because again you've been dipping your toes into this stuff, but I think we talked about this last month and we have been interested in this one for a little while. Mike just went out and bought it and now we played it. It was
theming
cool.
And stuff, and so it was really fun, and I'm gonna do an asynchronous play IRL with Geoff from Foster the Meeple real soon and stuff as well. So that is number 10, a Gest of Robin Hood. So number 9 is Asian Tigers, A Story of Prosperity. This is a worker placement kind of game where you are basically an investor that is backed by the Asian Tigers, which I believe were South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong at the time were all rising up and trying to be the dominant economy and things like that. And so you are an investor that sort of is I think trying to essentially like recruit, you know,
Right.
or prove to, as they were referred, the Asian tigers, to like kind of like why
why they
you
pick-
should be,
yeah,
why
exactly.
they should pick you and stuff like that. So you're kind of going around and doing things, and you know, in this kind of economic boom era.
I think maybe this one's coming out at Gen Con, I believe, or is it on
I
Crafting?
think it's coming out soon.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
So if we're
it's-
wrong about that. Apologies.
Yeah,
but,
sorry about that. Yeah, but it seems cool. And again, it's popped up on the hotness, and so yeah, interesting. I like worker placement games and stuff like that, and it just seems awesome.
Yeah, an interesting time in history to boot, back in the '60s and things like
Yeah,
that.
right.
So, you know, those are always kind of interesting to look back and stuff. So that is number 9, Asian Tigers.
Number 8 is going to be Tales from the Red Dragon Inn by SlugFest Games, who makes a lot of Red Dragon Inn games.
Yes, very popular.
But this is a dungeon crawler game that's back on Kickstarter right now for a second printing.
Right.
I believe the first one was last year, and it was really popular. Like, I think it was like one-stop co-op shops, like favorite game of the year. Like there was a lot of people really liked it. And yeah, it seems like a dungeon crawler. You're choosing different characters. I'm pretty sure these are characters from
the Red Dragon.
various
Yeah.
Red Dragon
Yeah,
in games,
exactly.
as there's a whole bunch of them in expansions, stuff like that. But yeah, you're dungeon crawling. You're playing out cards. You're rolling dice. But apparently, it's really fun. It's got like cool minis and stuff. Yeah. It's always interesting to me, like when you have a game universe, really. And I love seeing more and more games in these kinds of game universes, kind of like, say, like Tidal Blades. And Tidal Blades 2 is like a dungeon crawler. Now you had this, a game that's been around for a long time now, of Tales of Red Dragon Inn, rather. And now there's a whole big dungeon crawl in this world. It's cool to be like, oh, I like this character. Now I can take them on this like whole other adventure.
Yeah, I think it's smart and it's kind of fun. You know, it's fun to just continue the story.
Yeah.
And you have,
especially if you're a big fan of that game, that series, right?
You're already in the world, so it's gonna be familiar faces and stuff like that. I always think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So shouts out to that, the second printing,
good on
crowdfunding. If you're a fan of Red Dragon Inn, that is Tales from the Red Dragon Inn. Number 7 is gonna be a game that we played just recently at BGG Spring as well. This is Harmonies.
Yeah, shout out to Jamie for teaching it
Shouts
to
out
us,
to Jamie from Foster and Meeple. You can check her out right here on BoardGameGeek as well for solo plays. Harmonies is a game where you are drafting 3 tokens at a time on a turn, and you are placing them out onto your player board. You have kind of a limited space, and you are placing out these tokens in such a way to kind of fulfill contracts. There's these animal cards that want to have certain tokens next to certain ones in a certain way. And then all of the types of tokens, which are like mountains and trees and meadows, things like that, all have their own individual way of scoring as well. So you're kind of balancing, finding the harmony of that, of like, I want to fulfill these certain cards, but I don't want to do it in such a way that kind of hurts my end game scoring for the the token rather types themselves.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then there's also like a 3D aspect, because like certain things like mountains,
you can stack certain things.
You need them to be stacked, because a one-tile mountain is not much of a mountain, it's more of a hill. And so you're kind of thinking in 2 dimensions at once. And it's really interesting. It's got a great look. It's really pretty and colorful. And people seem to really enjoy it right now. I think a game I did very recently did a playthrough of it, so you can watch them play it. Lincoln and Nikki and crew and stuff like that. So yeah, Harmonies is cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I thought, we picked it up at a game store recently. Yeah,
it has a lot of appeal. The look, of course, the art. People compare it to Cascadia, another high appeal kind of game. The nature theme and everything to boot. But yeah, I like the whole the element of stacking certain tokens. Cool. And then again, the balance of like, I really want to complete these cards, but that kind of makes my mountains not ideal for end game scoring. So how do I find a way to get both? Is really cool. And I always like games that kind of pull you in 2 different directions at once. So
yeah, it's nice.
And it's quick to boot, says Harmonies.
Number 6 is Beacon Patrol, which came out last year. This game is, I know Pandasaurus is the one distributing this or publishing it and stuff like that. I'm guessing they're gonna do a big push for it at Gen Con, because it's back on the hotness, and it's a really cool looking game that's just got a great little look.
Yeah, it's got a kind of simplistic, cartoonish.
I'm pretty sure the designer, if I remember correctly, the designer is the one who also did the art.
Yeah.
Which I just always love when that.
Always love that. Yeah, this is a cooperative tile laying game where you are placing out tiles, trying to explore as many as possible, which means you've fully surrounded them.
Right.
And you have to kind of do the classic Carcassonne stuff of like making, land to land, water to water. You have all these buoys and things that you're trying to like secure and stuff like that. So I've heard it's like actually pretty challenging, which is kind of cool. But I'm with you on the I love the art style.
That's so cute.
That kind of like simple.
I thought I honestly when I first thought I was like, oh, this looks kind of like an Oink game.
Yeah,
it's got that kind of like
sure.
small box game look to it. They're not all
and it's
Oink
got the
games
small
like that.
little thin box and stuff.
But it's just there's a vibe that a lot of those small box games have. Many of them are Oink games, which was I threw out an Oink game specifically. But this just looks at that, and I was like, oh, this looks like one of those like smaller box, delightful games.
Yeah,
you know
I really want to try it. Yeah, there's something satisfying about building out that kind of tableau of tiles and starting with nothing on the table and then have this thing kind of ever expanding. I like that's cooperative, so you know we can kind of put our heads together. It's one that we personally really want to try. I remember seeing it last year. And didn't get a chance to pick it up then, and so it's nice to have a reminder, be like, oh yeah, I want to make sure I check that one out. So that's Beacon Patrol.
Number 5 is going to be Star Trek Captain's Chair. We are kind of in like just the very kind of square, boom, boom, boom.
Little Captain Kirk, like real chill.
This is by David Turczi and Nigel Buckle, which is a duo that did like Voidfall, and they did all the Imperium games, like Imperium Classic, Legends, and Horizons. And so that's a duo that I'm always very interested in. But this is a 2-player Star Trek based game. Unfortunately, we're not the biggest Trekkies.
No,
I've always, in my mind, I'm always like, I'm gonna watch Star Trek someday. And have not yet.
This hasn't happened yet, but it's not because there's antagonism.
But want to, no, not at all. But yeah, so this one you're choosing a captain. There's 6 captains available. I'm gonna assume that they're gonna add more at some point.
Yeah, I think so.
There's more than 6, right? So so you're choosing a captain, and that captain's gonna have like an asymmetric deck.
A different style and kind of, a different potential, like kind of path to victory.
Yeah, exactly, because there's a whole bunch of cards, like common cards, and those can like really change up your strategy and stuff. But yeah, it's like you're having to do like diplomacy, economics, alliances, all these different kinds of things. Different captains, of course, are good at different things. And depending on like what cards are out, that might change things. I have no idea if this plays anything like Imperium, but I've played a little bit of Imperium, and you have different factions, what common cards are out there, can kind of change stuff. So I'm curious if there's any, I'm curious if there's any DNA shared between the two, considering it's the same duo.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
No, it wouldn't be. I really like Imperium a lot, I'm very, very curious about this one, despite me not even being a Trekkie.
It might be our way in, though, you know what I mean?
Maybe, we'll I know Picard a little bit. I'll pick Patrick Stewart.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is Star Trek Captain's Chair. I mean, like, it just seems like a Trekkie kind of dream.
Yeah, right?
And one that, like, what you hope for as a non-Trekkie myself, one that I'm still kind of like, well, sounds pretty cool. I kind of want to play that. So that's always a good sign. So that's Star Trek Captain's Chair.
Number 4 is a sequel of sorts. This is Foundations of Metropolis, which is a sequel to Foundations of Rome.
Absolutely. So this kind of makes it a city building game with the same kind of actions that you can take in Foundations of Rome, but now adds kind of like more polyomino shapes and things to your kind of grid as you build out this city.
Not as large.
Yeah, so general. Foundations of Rome very famously is a really easy to learn game, but with huge 3D building pieces and stuff. Beautiful, amazing, but really kind of a lot. And this kind of, I think, brings it down to kind of more just tiles.
More of a game that you could just like, buy for
a little more casual,
slightly more reasonable. Yeah, exactly.
A little cheaper and stuff like that. But that same kind of base, actions that you can take from Foundations of Rome are very much in place here. So
you're essentially getting deeds to different plots.
Yeah.
And then once you have those plots, no one else can at least in Foundations of Rome, no one can steal them from you. And then you're going to essentially replace those plots with buildings of yours, and those are going to do various things. So it looks like
kinds of income.
It's going to share a lot of DNA with the original, with some new stuff as well. But again, at I think, less grandiose and cheaper price point, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, so we're excited to try it for sure. We both enjoyed Foundations of Rome, and but don't own it, so maybe this will be our version. We'll have to see, but that's coming up real soon, so I think that's why it's kind of peaking on the hotness now.
Yeah.
Because Foundations of Rome was, of course, so popular.
Humongous.
That's Foundations of Metropolis.
Number 3 is a game called Night Shift. Night Shift is a game about being an exotic dancer.
Yeah, created by
a former dancer.
Exotic dancer,
who's very big on like social media and stuff. Yeah,
based on their experiences and things. In this game, you are trying to make the most money as possible over a shift. By
kind of navigating the difficulties of being a dancer in a club, right?
Absolutely. So you were trying to basically attract the right customers that prefer you and using your action points and things in such a way to kind of like maximize your profits from the customers that are available. Yeah. Which is really interesting and stuff. And
it's a different game, right?
Yeah. And we're personally,
but like mechanically, it seems like it's just like it's not like every other board game, but it's like it's just a modern board game with a theme that Exotic Cancer, again, who's the person who made it, knows a lot about, right?
Yeah, which is cool, you know, and like we're all about personally diverse themes and things like that.
Why not, right?
It's cool, and you know, pulling in your own personal life experiences.
Crowdfunding right now. It's done really well too. Yeah. I know. They're saying that they're shocked at how well it's done and stuff like that. So that's great. Good on them, right? It's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's number 3, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Night Shift.
Number 2 is in people's hands at this point. This is Slay the Spire, the board game. We talked about this a couple times recently.
We have, yeah. It's delivering now. I think probably
at this point it's probably mostly delivered.
Most people have gotten their
at least
copy.
In North America. I can't really say for the rest of the world.
Sure. So this was on Kickstarter a year and a half ago.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's based on Slay the Spire, the video game, which is a roguelike deck building game.
Yeah, so it's just a deck building game.
It's a video game, but it's like, you know, when we first played, we're like, oh, this is just a straight up deck building game. So for board gamers, I think it's part of why that game has so much appeal is that it really hits a broad audience, and it of course makes for a pretty decent board game adaptation because it's just already kind of a board game.
Yeah, but they adapt it well, because one thing about the video game, and video games are obviously very good at this, which is bookkeeping. Sure. There's a lot of like buffs and negative stuff you can throw on each other and stuff like that, and the video game calculates all that for you, but there's a lot of things that are just
simplify the math.
Exactly, because otherwise it'd be nuts to try and play this game not virtually, you know. What's the word? Analog. That's what I'm trying to say. I keep want to say anatomical. I'm like, no, that's wrong.
I mean,
that's wrong.
But nonetheless,
it's really, really fun. We're both big fans of Slay the Spire. We've talked about it a couple months in a row now. Big fans of Slay the Spire. We have the board game.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with the board games.
The board game's making me play the video game again, and that's not good. So, you know.
We're in it now.
They've announced Slay the Spire 2. I'm just like, this is bad.
The excitement is real.
Bad. So, Slay the Spire board game is really, really fun. If you like Slay the Spire, if you don't, one of our friends we introduced the board game to, and now he's playing Slay the Spire, the video game. Yes. So, it's also very fun if you're not into the video game beforehand. But no, that's Slay the Spire, the board game.
Number 1 is the new game Arcs,
delivering
to people now. I have a buddy who just got it and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Dan?
Chris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my buddy Chris. The people that you know, clearly.
Yes, clearly.
So Arcs is just
really,
getting into people's hands.
Playing to the audience right now, you know.
It's a big kind of space opera game, but kind of in a quicker 60 to 90 minute package and stuff, where you're getting dice, you know, battling, using I think multi-use cards and stuff.
Well, and I know
building
it's got like trick taking in it.
Yeah,
it's like because the person like plays a card and the other people can like follow suit or not. And I had forgotten that about it, because again, it was on Kickstarter, I believe, last year, and I hadn't looked at the game in a while. And I was just
store.
Like,
I can go buy it.
Is that right?
I know where it's at.
I can get it. And I was like, oh, that's right. This game's got like trick taking in it, or at least kind of pseudo trick taking. It kind of plays upon it.
Yeah, kind of card.
And I was like, that's so cool. I love when kind of big games like this are like, oh yeah, this is like.
And he uses this really classic mechanism in the middle.
At some part, I think it's really, really cool. But yeah, people seem to really be liking Arcs. I mean, people obviously were very excited. Whole Whirly and Leader games, so people made like Root and stuff. Obviously, their stuff does well. You know,
they never fail to make a splash with their games. They just make
this one
interesting stuff.
It seems interesting. I do want to try
really
it. I'm pretty curious about it too. But it seems cool. And then when I remember that, I was like, oh, that's right. There's like trick taking stuff in it. That's right. Okay, I'm maybe even more curious about it, because I'm just curious what that.
Let us know if we should play it.
Yeah.
Because again,
seems like
I know. It's a Big Brother Comics downtown. I've called dibs. If you live in the Sacramento area, do not take it.
I call
dibs.
Michael will be mad.
There's an all-in pledge sitting there on the shelf, man.
Oh my gosh, an all-in? We don't need that.
Maybe we do.
So last thing we do, got our iPad here, is talk about the top 10 most played games of the month.
There's some like
I'll tell you right now, Mikey,
recently, man.
It's kind of weird right now. Yeah, number 10, we have Trio at 6,335.
Right on Board Game Arena and stuff.
Yes, and that's been here for a bit now, is Trio. Then we have Captain Flip.
Okay, listen, Captain Flip, I'm contributing several plays myself. I think it's such a replayable game.
It is.
It's so addictive.
With 2 more plays, 6,337. That's like Captain Flip. I was like, dang.
Wow.
Captain Flip is great.
Yeah.
We have Marvel Champions, which has 6,758.
Nice.
Terraforming Mars, 6,806. We have Wingspan, which has 6,936. Sea Salt and Paper,
always around.
7,455. That one's usually here. It's such a quick, good game. Sky Team usually here, 7,837. Azul with 7,900. Number 2 is Harmonies.
Wow.
Which has 8,148. Is that online anywhere?
No, but it's been selling out everywhere.
Yeah.
And I guess that shows really how...
Number 1 baby is Arc Nova with 11,109. It's 2,000 above Harmonies. So Arc Nova's back on top, baby.
It's inevitable.
People love it.
I've been playing nonstop of that as well. So again, I'm contributing to these numbers. You can contribute to these numbers by logging your plays right here on BoardGameGeek and other apps as I've talked to BoardGameGeek. So do that so you can look back at what you played and it helps contribute to these numbers. And especially if you want to see Arc Nova get dethroned, you got to play Seesaw.
You got to play 2,000 times.
Yeah,
at least.
But you could do that. So those are the most played games. Let's go ahead and head back over to our other area for some Murph Picks.
My Murph pick is going to be a really cool high-tech dice tower by Fabio Rojas. And how they made this dice tower is they made it out of a Pringles can and I think 3 or 4 playing cards. So what they did is they took if you know what Pringles can, if you're outside the US or you somehow don't know what Pringles are potato chips that are in a very, they look like they're in a tennis ball tube. And they put playing cards inside. So they made some slits in the side of the tube, put some playing cards in there, kind of like this, and then made a chute and then an opening. So you could literally just drop the dice in there, they go brrr, and you have yourself a little dice tower. I feel like we've talked about DIY homemade dice towers a bunch of times on this show, and I will never get tired of them. I think this one's great. I think it's brilliant. And Fabio was even talking about paper macheing it to make it look kind of maybe like a wizard's tower or something kind of really long and tall like that. And I think it's a really cool idea, especially if you take it past the Pringles. I think that's a really cool idea. But even if you don't, I think it's hilarious. You just throw it in a bag, pop the top on, pop the top off, boom. Once you pop, the fun don't stop. Wasn't that Pringles thing? I think it was. I don't know. I think this dice tower is brilliant. And honestly, I'd buy one for $10,000. I think it's amazing.
So my Murph pick is from Dinosaur Planet, and they documented their experience with painting the 3D tile big box edition of Terraforming Mars. It came with a bunch of tiles, all 3D, which come kind of color coded already, and they went through and painted everything by hand to really make them pop. So there are pictures of all the different tiles, how they did the ocean and stuff. The highlights on trees and things, the nuclear blast looks super cool. So there's a bunch of pictures of the art itself, and then going through and documenting kind of tile type by tile type, what techniques were used, what the kind of approach was with the trees and using different shades to give kind of variation and all that. All of that information is there in the post as well. So it's actually really useful if you are wanting to paint that specific set, or just learn a little bit more about painting, highlighting, in those kind of techniques and stuff. This post is actually really, really great for picking up some good information about how to approach certain things to, get certain effects for your tiles. So just on top of the fact that it looks super cool and I love looking at the pictures themselves, the information contained is also really, really interesting and potentially really valuable if you are just getting into painting or maybe thinking about picking up a brush.
Alrighty, so that is some Murph picks, some hot games, the most played game of the month. We always talk about our favorite game of the month that we personally played. Now, I will say I haven't played a ton of games this month because we've been working very hard.
It's been a lot going on, a lot of move stuff.
There's been a lot going on. But my favorite game that we played recently was Wormspan. We finally got Wormspan to the table.
Late to the party.
Yeah, it took us a while to play it. We bought it a number of months ago, still hadn't had a chance to play it. But yeah, I got it played and I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I like Wingspan already, and this just kind of, you just changed some stuff, but the changes they did, I really, really like. I feel like you had a little bit more control over what you were doing in the game, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I really am excited to explore it more. So my favorite game of the month is Wormspan, which is Wingspan with dragons.
Nice. Mine is the same game. It's the Gest of Robin Hood.
Basically, okay. Game, yeah.
This is
just talk about the hotness, but we just played it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of following in my trend into wargaming a little bit.
This is coin games. Yeah.
Yeah. This is another coin game. It's a part of the I think it's called the Irregular Conflict series. And this one, it's a 2-player war game that pits Robin Hood and his merry men versus the Sheriff of Nottingham and his henchmen and stuff like that. We played this, and this was fun to explore because having played Cuba Libre back in May and really enjoying that, it was fun to play another game in the series and see that DNA.
Yeah, right.
See certain aspects, certain things that are, it's not the same game. This one's a little bit more kind of hidden movementy. but you see like the action selection and how things carry over to other games in the series, and that was really fun to explore.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to try even more. I played as Robin Hood, you play as the sheriff. I'd love to switch the roles around and see what's like on the other side. And you know what? I appreciate you being brave and trying.
It's not my kind of game, but that's all right.
That's okay. So it was my pick for the month.
right.
But let us know in the comments what are your picks in the month, and get those in the comments below. Make sure to rate those games right here on BoardGameGeek and all that stuff, so that maybe the game that you really love can be on the Hotness next month. All right? That's gonna be it for us, everybody. We'll catch y'all next month.
Bye, everybody.